inspiring you to set the marketplace ablaze in partnership with an awesome and limitless God. This is the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast, and this isn't business as usual. Here's your host and Chief Fire Igniter, Shay Bynes.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. This is your host, Shay Bynes, and our goal here is to inspire you to operate your business completely yielded and in partnership with our awesome and limitless God. Today, I'm doing another behind the scenes of KDE conversation, this time with LaTara Venise, who has been on our Igniters mentor team for quite some time now. And more recently, she has taken on the role as our Igniters team lead. And so we have a wonderful chat about two things, a bit about her story and how she made her shift and her transition from hustling and grinding her way through business to really flowing and operating in the unforced rhythms and the power of God's grace. And of course, she also gives us some insight into her beginning month and a half or so in this new role. And so I believe you'll be blessed by what she has to share. So listen in and enjoy. LaTara Venise, what's up, sis?
Hey, Shay Bynes. I'm good.
Well, you know, whenever we have some fun shifts on our team, our operational team with Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, we have to do these behind the scene chats. And about, when was this? Maybe a month ago? So maybe 2 months ago, we announced LaTara as, probably was 2 months ago, announced LaTara as the team lead, Igniters team lead. And LaTara has been on a team since, I don't know, a while, probably 2016 as an Igniters mentor. And so, you know, you've been around Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur pretty much since the very beginning, like 2000. I
joined on day one. So
yeah, like pretty
when
much.
When the group popped up and I joined.
Yeah. So it has been fun. I have to say from my side that it has been a absolute delight to have what I consider like a front row seat at the adventures of LaTara Venise. And moving from the hustle and grind to working in a completely different business and doing it by the grace of God and seeing the fruit of this whole shift and transition. It has been absolutely amazing. If anyone asks for like a testimony from an igniter or anybody who made a shift from grinding to working by the power of God's grace, I'm like, I got one. Like, I got one.
For real.
The first one that comes to my mind is LaTara Venise.
For real. Yeah.
So why don't you, you've been on the podcast probably twice over the years, but it's been a long time. So can you share, give us a little summary about what you do in business right now?
Some days I don't know what I do. I just go, God, what are we doing today? Because so much is still shifting in it that I'm going, okay, are you giving this back to me? What are we doing here? So basically when I look at what I do at Color Your Soul is I really help people to get their emotions straight and their soul in check, like really just learn how to become some emotional adults because we're a bunch of emotional children and we just have an age that says we grown, but we not. So, I mean, that's what I do. But, like I said, so much is shifting and he's still putting so much in place that I'm like going, okay, are you giving me this work back now? It's a trip. It's a trip.
Yes, just walking it out day by day. So this is what I want to do. I want to talk about this shift that you made in your mind and your heart, and then the actions that corresponded with this shift. So I want you to explain what it was like when you were doing business as a hardcore hustle and grinder. I want you to explain what things were like then for you. And then I want to do a contrast and talk about how things flow with you now. And that. All right. So talk to me about the hustle and grind days.
I had an image of the pimp from Starsky and Husky when you said that. That was was about it, I'm just always grinding. I was always having something to do. Always like, okay, I gotta get these 7 streams in line. I gotta get this in line. And, while I'm getting it in line, I liken it to someone who does the network marketing and they join like 5 different network marketing companies. And then they wonder why they're not making no money. Well, you have to cycle the money back into the other company. And that's where I was. It was like, okay, well, I gotta make money over here. I gotta make money over here. And let me remind y'all, I was a broke coach. Let me just say that right now. I could brand the socks off of you. I could brand you. I could take a vision, a little piece of what you had, and man, it could shift into something totally different. But I was a broke coach, right? So it was a lot that I was doing. I think, like when you think of a hustler, again, I go back to that pimp. When you think of a hustler, and I grew up in the 70s, so you saw hustlers a lot, right? Street corner hustlers in front of liquor stores, hustlers everywhere. And they always have a gimmick, a game, right? So I always had a gimmick. I always had a game. But I always had to come up with a new gimmick and a new game because eventually that gimmick would die off. I just had a bunch of gimmicks, a bunch of games, and I had no longevity. I had no plan other than what was right before me at that moment. I wasn't even dreaming, Shay. I couldn't dream. Because I was too busy with the gimmicks and the games. And I was worn out. I was tired. I was moody. I was, worrying all the time. What's my next gimmick? What's my next game? What am I going to do? That's just where I was. When I think about it, there was no joy in that moment, right? There's no joy in that period at all.
So yeah, it's almost like it becomes just like the money chase. So what's the next thing? What's the next thing that's gonna make the dollars? Mm-hmm. And I remember you sharing that the reason why you were a broke coach is not because you didn't have clients, it's because you weren't priced appropriately. And so basically that put you in this position of having to constantly seek after more clients.
Yes,
because you weren't priced well. You're basically giving away the farm.
I was giving it away. And it's so funny because just this morning, Shay, you and I talked about pricing with speakers, right? And so just this morning, as I was thinking about, my son is in San Diego right now speaking for a whole week. And I thought about pricing. And I said, well, how do you price ministry, God? He said, you're not pricing the ministry. You're pricing the time you're putting into it. That blew my mind. I was like, oh. And that's not what I was doing. I wasn't pricing the time. It was just inadequate pricing. Right. Really hurt me a lot. I was giving away, doing the most.
Then, okay, what was the beginning moment of the shift? Like, what was your first shift where kind of a light bulb goes off and you're like, I can't do it this way anymore and I gotta shift?
I think when, because I've been here in Oklahoma since 2009. And when I first moved here, we were in my great-grandparents' home that my mom had inherited. And so we were paying no rent, nothing like that. And so when you're not paying any rent and all you're paying is taxes and utilities, you go, all right, well, we'll be living here forever. And, the floor began to have issues and then the roof started coming. Ceiling pieces started coming down from water damage. And I'm going, I can't live in this forever. That was like a light bulb for me. And then I think the warning, and we know it came true from God, who had been telling me for some years, this house gonna catch fire. And I was like, this house ain't gonna catch fire. What you talking about? So that was the shift for me, was watching the house fall apart and there was nothing I could do. I couldn't move. I couldn't help. I couldn't do anything.
Right.
Other than to watch the house fall apart.
And then the house really did burn down.
It really did burn down. And that started something really serious because I was like, oh, man, we got to move.
And you're thinking this hustling thing hasn't been working well anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to shift.
I need to shift. And the funny thing is that the house fire was just before I signed up for your very first igniters. And then the house fire happened just before we were supposed to start, a couple of weeks before we were supposed to start. And I remember you saying, are you still going to do this? Yeah. God was like, yeah, you still going to do it, because it was all in his plan that all that happened. And I was like, okay, I'm still going to do this. And not knowing that it was a whole part of the process, right? Because I think we moved in 6 months after the house is when we moved in, after the house burned down, when we moved in here. So for 6 months, I had this time of just really kind of figuring out what does this look like, LaTara? What are you going to do? And I really had no idea, because again, I wasn't in dream and vision mode. I was in hustle mode. So I'm still hustling, So yeah, that whole house thing was like, you need to wake up, girl.
Behind the hustle and grind, a lot of times it's just doing it in your own strength, is because it's like, all right, I feel like this is my responsibility. I am the source of myself. So I need to make all of this stuff happen, and I need to go after it. I need to get it, and I need to make it all happen, which means that in order to work by the grace of God, it means recognizing him as the source, and then trusting and operating as if he is the source, where you're working with him, right? But knowing that ultimately he's the God of the outcome. So what happened for you? Because that's a heart and mind shift. That's not even like, well, the house burned down and practically speaking, I got to do something.
Right.
Where did that shift take place? Because that took a greater level of intimacy with God. That took a greater level of trusting God for you to truly be able to make that shift.
Yeah. And let me say that, and too, Shay, that didn't really like totally happen until September of last year. I think I had the mind piece together, like, okay, I know I can trust God, right? But my heart was like, yeah, but girl, you still got to do some hustle, right? So, because also you have to remember, I'm in this house and I'm trying to get to a place to where mama don't have to pay rent, mama don't have to pay utilities, she don't have to do any of that. I can take care of all of that. And then I'm still dealing with everything I was dealing with, because the enemy was like, here's the kitchen sink, here's the tub.
Here's a whole bunch of unexpected expenses to deal with.
Yeah, unexpected expenses, people in the way, all kind of stuff happening, paying lawyers. And I'm like, oh God, where's this all coming from? And so when all of that became so insurmountable, all of this money, I was like, okay, I trust you, God, I trust you. And I would hear something from him and I would take it and I would run with it. I would run way past where he was telling me to, thinking, this is it. This is my $1 million thing. I'm going to make a lot of money on this. And we're not going to worry about anything. But I wasn't surrendering who I truly was, that's your heart, who I truly was to him, right? And I was like, okay, something it's got to give. And I think that shift happened really, truly in September, when I was sitting on my back porch going, I don't even know how I'm paying the rent. God, you told me to take this break. I'm on this break. I don't even know how I'm paying the rent. I don't even know what we're doing here. And I'm about tired of this. So I'm going to sit right here on this back porch in this heat. It was hot until I hear from you. It was hot. It was hot, y'all.
September in Oklahoma?
Woo. And it was humid. So that's even worse, right? And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And that whole week you have been talking to me about, LaTara, you have to incline your heart. You're not inclining your heart. And I was like, she don't know what she's talking. What is she talking about? My heart is inclined. I love the Lord. That's my heart. I love him. Right? And I was like, I don't want to hear from her. I just don't want to hear from her. And she kept telling me that. And I'm like, well, I don't understand that, God. What do you mean incline? What do you mean by that? And I can't even tell you what it looks like to incline my heart. Just that I was like, okay, I'm surrendering. I'm not happy with where I am. And I was honest, and I'm not happy with you, God, because this is not where I should be right now. But what happened on that back porch, he was like, well, let me show you. You want that burning bush moment? Let me show you a burning bush moment. Now, the bush didn't burn down. Something else.
The house burned down.
The house didn't, he was like, I already gave you, you already had a fire. Now let me show you something else. And he literally brought heaven to earth for me in a different kind of way. And I was asking for a tangible. I want your presence to be tangibly with me. That's what I want. I want to know without a doubt that you are here. Because I think at that point, I think the heart and mind connection is, I think in the heart, you're really doubting, because y'all know your heart connects to your brain and it communicates, right? And I think my heart was doubting more so than anything else. So my emotions weren't attaching to what my mind was telling me. And there was a struggle there. And I had to emotionally, here I am, soul care provider. You teaching people how to be grown up emotionally, and you can't even emotionally connect to God. That was the issue. I kept mentally trying to do this thing.
Wow.
And he was like, that's your logic. I don't even work from your logic. I work from your heart. So I had to really take my emotions and tie them into him. He showed me a tangible presence that day. And it hasn't been the same since.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Oh gosh, you mean the day when the hummingbirds and the butterflies and the dragonflies came, and literally it was almost like I was just sitting there like, I'm not moving. I'm upset with you. I want this tangible presence and I'm not feeling it. Everybody keeps telling me his presence is there all the time. And I know that it says you're omnipresent. Where you at, God? And I just was having this conversation with him, and it seems strange, but this is God, right? Is that this mist came over. And then there are three things I love: hummingbirds, butterflies, and dragonflies. I just love them. And I remember first it was a dragonfly, and I was like, oh, look at the pretty dragonfly. It's so pretty. Then there was this butterfly, and I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, then more dragonflies and more butterflies. And there was like this mist. It was humid. So I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? But it was the middle of the day. Right? Mist is normally an evening or a morning thing, not the middle of the day. And there was like this mist, and I was like going, what's this? What's going on? It was almost like the sun got clouded over just a little bit. And then I saw a hummingbird, because they always come to my little tree out here. And I was like, oh, there's a hummingbird. Then I saw two. And I was like, okay, I've been seeing two. But then I saw three. And I was like, whoa, where did three hummingbirds come from? And I'm just watching. And I just hear this hush, everything around me. Now, I live by a highway and I live by major streets. And it's not that it's very loud over here, but it got so quiet that I was like, okay. I was like, what's going on? And then I saw the three hummingbirds, and they kind of formed a triangle above the tree. And I went, okay, wow. And it was instantly, I was like, okay, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And I was sitting there. Remember I said, I don't even know how I'm paying my rent, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, God, thank you. I asked for your presence. You gave me your presence. I don't know if I was expecting angels to come down or something. I was not expecting that, because in that moment, my heaven on earth is butterflies, my garden, dragonflies, and hummingbirds. And that's what he gave me. And, I remember Tony and I talking one time about what does kingdom look like? And she said, well, it looks different for everybody. Right? So what does it look like for you right now? And I said, well, for right now, it looks like God's love. So in that moment, he was giving me everything that I loved and showing me, this is how much I love you. And when I went to that mailbox and that check was in there on a Saturday, I was like, Jesus, thank you, Father. I can pay my rent. That was amazing, and then to hear him tell me when I got that check, you will never, ever see your bank account in the red unless you mess up. But he promised me never, ever. And it never, ever, ever changed. It only increased. It never went down. It increased.
You had an encounter with God, and that shifted everything. That's what shifted everything for me too. You already know my story. That shifted everything for me. In fact, I can actually point back to every significant shift in my life. And every single one of them, the most important ones, the most significant shifts in my life, all I can point to an encounter with God. Every single one.
Yeah, I can too.
I love that. I love that so much. So I think it's so interesting. And you guys, so here, LaTara was an Igniter's mentor, serving people well, helping people to walk and develop in their own. But what I love so much about this process, even with Igniters, is that all of us are always growing.
Yeah.
And if we are growing and then we are transparent about our journeys and all of those things, then we can, in full authenticity and full, in full integrity, still be able to help. We're family. We all get to come along together.
Right.
And I love the fact that here's our team lead talking to me right now. Our team lead, who is one of the first mentors we brought on Igniters Mentoring, can say, it still took me a few years to walk this thing out, to go from hustling to I'm working by the power of God's grace. That still took time. And even when I intellectually agreed with it, it was still then another year or another 2 years before my heart connected to it.
Right.
And then the heart connection came from a point of just like, you're at this point where you're just like, look, God, like I need to experience you in a way that like I haven't. Like I have to know that you are here with me. And then encounter with him.
Yes.
And then since then, like, what is it like for you to flow in your work? Like how have things changed? I do know that there's been the financial fruit because I know you shared the other day publicly that you did more income the first 6 months of this year than you did the entire year.
Yes.
Last year.
Yes.
What does this look like day to day for you now?
Oh gosh. It looks like me pulling out a journal, literally. And I'm sitting there and I'm like going, okay, so this is it just kind of flows. It's strange because I can have a whole week's plan written out. This is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But my recent thing has been, let me surrender these plans, right? Because you can write something and think you're doing this with God, but I still have to turn it around and surrender it back to him and go, okay, is this what we're supposed to be doing this week? And I've gotten to a place, Shay, where I don't even sometimes, honestly, I put my planner out day by day. Like, what are we doing today? Because it has shifted that much. And it's hard to explain the whole thing, but I literally go to bed every night dumbfounded and in awe. Like, okay. I mean, I don't go to bed tired. I'm not exhausted because I take naps. I'm not exhausted, right? I don't work all day. I mean, that's what it looks like for me too. I just go, okay, God, what are we doing today? And sometimes it'll shift right in the middle, even of what I'm doing. And I almost hear, put a check mark there, come back to it. Right? Or, put a tab there, you're going to come back to it because something else will shift or something else is necessary and needed. I guess, wow, that's good. Okay. I guess what it is because I really understand my values and my priorities, I'm able to shift my plans that way, if that makes sense, right? Because that's just what I was hearing in my head. It's about how I prioritize my day. My day belongs to God. Right. And so if God turns around and says, you got to put that shower thing up for your mama, which was one of my struggles this week, then you need to go get that done because that's who you're honoring right now. That's a priority. Hey, Brayhan starts school today. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention. And I have to, it's a trip. It's just a trip because I get things done. I'm like, oh, I got some stuff done today. All right, God, yeah. And I look at my task list and I go, I got a good deal done. What didn't get done today can get done tomorrow because just because I write out a task list does not mean I'm obligated to complete it in that day. That was another huge lesson too, because I used to feel guilty. Like, oh my God, I'm not a good entrepreneur because I didn't finish out this whole task list. How about just be a good servant, right? And that's where I am, right? And because my heart is inclined, if my priority tells me you got to stop for the day, then I stop for the day and let me go take care of what God is telling me to take care of.
And the beauty in all of that is that since he is your source, and God's always moving. Like, always. So while you're handling based off of your values and your priorities and how he's leading and guiding you, you might not be doing the business thing at the moment, right. But yet the business thing is still happening.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. It's still happening. It doesn't have to happen in a way that's like I'm literally sending these emails or I'm having these conversations or I'm doing a live or I'm on Facebook or I'm doing those things. I'm taking care of mom. But yet God's still handling my business.
Right. Yeah. And that's phenomenal because I sent one email out this week because I'm doing a retreat and I sent out the special invite and I was like, all right, God, it's in your hands. And all I do is go do what I got to do. I'm not sitting up there monitoring and seeing who's opening, I don't even look at that later. I'm like, and I'll go accidentally go, oh, okay, that many people opened it up. All right. That's not my goal every day. My goal every day is to tend to those things that are important to me and that matter to me. And that's what I do. So if I have to spend a whole day going in there helping mama put some stuff together, then I just spend a whole day doing that because God's still going to do it. And when I come back and I check my emails and I go, oh, look at that. 3 people done registered today, you know, or I have a mastermind that I'm doing in April, and I didn't even have to send anything out for that. I mentioned it and people start inboxing me. Okay, well, where do I save my spot? That's what amazes me. And it's just like, okay, all I have to do is honor those things that God is telling me to honor, and he's still going to take care of this. It doesn't mean I don't put things into place, because I do have to be visible. I do have to influence, right? I still have to do those things, but I don't have to sit at my computer all day or worry about it all day or say, okay, let me go check this. Let me go do this. I don't have to do all of that, because what matters most is what he wants me to tend to. And that it's just amazing.
Folks can just sit on that for a second. Mm-hmm. So good. All right, let me shift gears. So that's been an awesome transition. I've loved watching it. I've loved seeing the fruit of it. It's just awesome to me. Now, let's talk a little bit, because you have this new role in KDE, and Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, as the Igniters team lead, which, for those who are wondering, what does that even mean? As we've been growing, there's been needs for more kind of operational positions in place, right? So we brought Angie on, as COO, and then she started as program administrator. So she had pulled a whole lot of Igniter stuff as her responsibilities. Then she went to operations manager, and she still had all this Igniters related responsibility, but yet I tossed a whole lot of other stuff on her. Then made her COO, and it's like she still had the remnants of like everything from the beginning, and then every new thing that we've added. And as the team has been growing, and we're about to expand the team yet again, we'll be making announcements about that really soon. We needed to make sure that we have someone in place whose responsibility is to tend to, what's going on with our team of mentors and coaches, and even programmatically, what's happening with Igniters. How do we continue to help that to grow and to do the things that the Lord's putting on our hearts to do concerning that? And so you have taken on that role. So thanks. What does this transition look like for you? How are you feeling about doing this role? Like, tell us the real deal. Like,
it is, at first I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. God, how do I tie this in with, what do I do? You're giving me to this? Because he had already kind of shown me what was coming. And I was like, I ain't even dealing with that. And a bug kept coming into my ear by way of a Voxer. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And
was that me, the Voxer bug?
Yes. And so, I'm sitting there going, okay, God, it's coming. And I just kept hearing him say, it'll be okay, because this is what's necessary. It's what's needed for now. And you are the person for it. I just kept going, yeah, right. And it was kind of strange, because, the way it happened blew my mind too, right? Because it just happened. And I was like, oh, I said yes, like yes, really fast. And I was like, wow, okay. And I think I said yes really fast because I would have probably tried to figure out a way out of it, because that's just typically me. But it took me a minute to kind of ease into it. And then, every time I turned around, it was like, I think 2 other things. Andy was like, oh, by the way, we want you to do this. And I went, wait a minute. Can I get used to this first? Right. And so that was the trip thing about it. And it was funny trying to transition over, because I've been a mentor, for so long. And I was like, okay, now it kind of shifts. Yes, you're still a mentor, but your mentoring capacity has growing, because now you're going to be mentoring mentors. And I wasn't sure how it was going to be received. I wasn't sure how it would go. I'm waiting on like further instruction from you and Angie. And I'm like, they're not giving me no further instruction. They just threw me out here. What's happening? They just sent me an email, threw me out here. And I'm like going, what am I doing here, Jesus? Because, you have this thing when you take over something, you're like, okay, well, how was it done before? What did y'all do? I didn't get none of that from y'all. And so I was like, they just threw me out here to the holy woods. What are we doing here?
At least they were holy.
And they were holy. They don't bite you. They just kind of go, you better get to moving.
And when we did, this is so funny that you're saying this to me. Because Angie, when I had this conversation with Angie, she was like, on the first day that you made me COO, you gave me a really hard assignment.
That was a hard assignment too.
Situation.
Yeah.
I had to do a confrontation on my first day. I was like,
first day. Yeah.
Like, because you're not new. You're not new. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's different when someone's brand new, like brand new.
Right.
But it's like, praise God, with her and with you, it's like, you guys have grown with us. And it's just like, it's for us. It's like, no, you were born for this spot, like right now. Mm-hmm. So whatever you got, it's for this. Mm-hmm. So just bring it. There is no blueprint. There's no formal blueprint for a former person to do it because no one's ever done this role here before.
Yeah.
So you are the one. So go for it. Now, hopefully you don't mind. You're so transparent. So hopefully you don't mind us having this conversation.
I don't. Mm-mm.
But it's like, I remember the first handful of times that you went live after you took this role. Mm-hmm. And every time you showed up, I was like, where's LaTara? Because LaTara all of a sudden seemed like, I don't know, like I was used to seeing LaTara just come out the way she is, just strong and bold and all the goodness of LaTara. But it was like, and I think it happened 3 times before I reached out to you.
Yeah.
And it was like, you were apologizing. You weren't saying you were sorry, but you were yet apologizing for how you show up and who you are. Because you don't show up the same way as any other mentor. And you don't sound like me. No. You don't sound like anybody. You only sound like LaTara. But it was almost apologetic. So first of all, what was going on with you right then? And then tell them what happened. I already know what happened. But you tell them.
I think that what it was is, again, I wasn't sure, how am I going to be received? How am I going to be? Because let's be honest, it's because we all believers don't mean some of us don't struggle with some stuff.
That's right.
It comes to somebody being placed in a position that seems like it's a hierarchy. We got to get up out of that. Ain't no hierarchy. I've just been assigned another task to the assignment. And so people see it as, here she goes, why did Shay put her up in that, And so I know how people talk, right? And I know how much we have to grow up emotionally. And so I'm like going, oh my God, I got to deal with these. I'm going to have to deal with the daycare, right? I'm going to have to deal with the daycare. Lord, what does this look like? I can't do this with grown people. And so I find myself going, listen, I'm not like Shay. I'm not like Angie. I'm not going to come to you like Tony. That ain't me. And I found myself trying to apologize, I think, for the way that, or maybe the expectations people may have had of me.
Real or perceived that you had.
Right? That I had. And it's like, that's why I think I kept apologizing and not really knowing that I was apologizing until I got this boxer, right? And I tell you, that little bug in the boxer, man, when I see those boxer messages, I'll be like, okay, what is she saying to me today? Because y'all know, can't nobody talk to me like Shay, nobody, other than my child, AJ. They have God's permission to come at me like they do. And so when I got it, she was like, I just need you to stop apologizing. It was a really good video. Can you stop apologizing? And I did it again. I'm not apologizing for who I am. And it was so funny because I had to stop. And anytime I get this sting in my spine and these tears come to my eyes, I know that's conviction. It's like, okay, yeah, LaTara. So I had to really think back and go, where did you apologize? And I listened to it again and I said, oh yeah, right there. Yeah, right there too. Mm-hmm, you did that. And I don't know how it shifted or whatever, but I shifted and I was like, stop apologizing for who you are. You are who you are. God placed you here. And he did it for a reason. So just keep on going, Petra. Do what you do.
Petra, the female Peter.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because that's just the real deal stuff that we work through as we shift and we do new things. And sometimes there's these real perceptions that people have. And then there's this perception that we have that people have that's not really reality. And then there's some that actually is reality. And and regardless of which one it is, it actually doesn't matter. Like ultimately, It doesn't matter. We just kind of stand in the thing that God has for us to do in the assignment, and we just keep going. And I think, I mean, when that you called me the bug in the boxer, but after the bug in the boxer situation, I'm telling you, it hasn't happened since then. And it was just like, I mean, not at all. And it's been awesome to see you just kind of grab this thing with both hands and keep
going.
And as Chief Fire Igniter, this stuff's kind of interesting too, because it's like we're creating all of these things that haven't existed before, you know? It's like there's a lot of things that we just make up as we go along. You think about Tony, a prophetic strategist, huh? Like,
right.
God saying a prophetic strategist. I don't know anybody. I have never heard any business owner tell me that they hired a prophetic strategist.
Right.
I've heard people say that I have prophetic intercessors for my business. I have heard that. I've never heard someone say they've hired a prophetic strategist for their business.
Yeah.
Like, what are you showing me? Like, what is this? Like,
right. What is this? Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, every step along the way, it's just like doing what we believe is the right move to make. And to make those moves and to allow everyone to just flow into those positions and just flow by his grace, give people grace to grow in their positions, or to even figure out what the positions even look like. And I'm so grateful to have a team of folks who are willing to like walk that process out. Sometimes like in a corporate environment, there's a lot less grace, you know, so there's a lot more pressure to do something a certain type of way, or wondering exactly how someone thinks about something, or needing this exact prescription because I want to make sure I perform exactly right, because I don't want to deal with the repercussions and all that stuff, that kind of the junk that kind of comes in some positions in a corporate world. Right. And I would say even some positions in businesses, if you have a leader who's like, you know, hardcore, a little bit cray. One of the beauties from a leadership perspective is that you can always look at the entire whole and see, as a team, as a collective, are we working by the power of God's grace? All of us. Like, no individual should be grinding in this organization. Right. All of us. But yet, if we are, then we hold each other accountable and create an atmosphere for growth so that we can all get to a point where nobody's got to grind around here.
Right.
And I love that. I love that we, even as a team, get to be the very example of the very thing that we're talking about. Not just me as an individual or you as an individual, but all of us, even collectively as a team, as a movement, to function in that way. So it's been fun.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
It's
good stuff. It's exciting stuff. I don't know what it brings from day to day. I remember getting my first call from one of the mentors, and I was like, what are they calling me for? And then she said, I need your counsel on something. And I went, oh yeah, that is my role. You know, and then I have to pray to God, because that little insecurity kind of hits me going, I'm not sure I'm gonna know what to say to her, right? And I want to share this because here's the thing. Sometimes we think that our skill set and stuff is not going to be used again when we start walking this path out. God began to show me, don't you remember when you ran that job center? You know, so like, oh, don't you remember the administrative skills you've gained all these years? Oh, don't you remember all that time you made them forms and all that curriculum and all of this? It's all being used now. I'm watching it being used as I implement things to make sure, as the team grows, that, you know, we're kind of a well-oiled machine, if that makes sense. Because in order to stay, you know, in the power of grace, you still have to put some things in place so that you're not grinding. And because it's not lazy. For those of you who are listening, grace is not lazy. Grace is necessary. And
thank you.
And so, you know, putting these things into place and then going, okay, well, I could be bold enough to do this. And I put something out, I'm like, well, she gonna vouch for me and say, that's not what I wanted. And then I remember when you said freedom reigns. And so you trust us enough to say, if God put them in this position, then everything that's needed for it to happen is going to be there. And I trust what they're doing because, number one, you've invested in us and we've invested in you. And that's really powerful to understand. And so it's been really different walking this thing out because I don't have anybody micromanaging me. So yeah, it's been different.
And it will continue to be different. And I think that's the fun. That's the fun in it. That's the wild and crazy and amazing adventure with God. I'm glad that you made the point. We're gonna close up here, but I was glad you made that point again about as we're working in His grace, that it is requiring structure. There's things that were not required structurally years ago in KDE that are absolutely required now. There's things in fact, as soon as we brought Angie on, I realized that there was a lot of things that we were going to have to get in order, because if it can't just be done, if it can't just be in Shay's head, right? Mm-hmm. Everything in Shay's head, we can't do that. So as soon as she came on as operations manager, we already started putting a whole lot of things in place. And then it was like, now we got to put people in place. And now there's procedures we have to put in place, and all of these things are done by His grace. These are not things but you said something key. You said putting these things in place keeps us from grinding.
Yes.
Putting the structure in place and all of those things, and not flying by the seat of our pants. Because that's what I'm saying. Sometimes people get it twisted, because they're thinking, oh, you're saying you're led of God and empowered God, so you're just saying everything's spontaneous. No, everything is not spontaneous. We plan. We dream with God. We plan with God. We implement with God. We do all of it. And we put the pieces in place to make sure that we are positioned for the increase that God has shown us is coming.
Yes.
So it takes structure. It takes that work, and that will keep us from crashing underneath the weight of what God's doing. And in fact, I quite honestly don't think that the weight would even show up if we weren't postured, because this is His thing and He's not looking for it to crash. So we need to be in position and prepare for what God is doing. And I think I'm hoping that just all of this sharing of what's going on behind the scenes and everything, that people are able to take just some goodness from what's going on with us and see where some of these things apply to their business. But that thing around that intimacy with God and getting from an intellectual thing to an inclined heart is so powerful. And the fact that it was an encounter with God that led there is also a very powerful point. And so for us to focus on intimacy with Him and just allowing God to show us things that we haven't seen before, show us aspects of Him that we haven't experienced before. And just all of those things gets us to a place where our heart's just like, our heart and our mind, everything's connected and we're flowing with You. Yes. Unforced rhythms of Your grace.
Yes. I agree. I totally agree. I think it's true. And I think that we keep trying to, logitize is not a word, but it's going to be a word that I make up. We keep trying to logitize God, and you really can't do that, because again, His thoughts are not our thoughts and His ways are not our ways. And that's been one of my biggest lessons in this whole thing, is really learning that really God's got this. You ain't even got to worry about it. There's always a method to what seems to be His madness, and He's not spontaneous. He's strategic in everything that He does.
The ultimate strategist.
Yes.
Operating outside of time, so therefore it looks spontaneous to us.
Yes, that's what it is. It operates outside of what we think is normal. So, but I always say, Dr. Phil always says, what is normal?
Listen, that last 60 seconds could have been a whole podcast in and of itself. We might have to have that conversation sometime. Tell people how they can get more information about what you're doing with Color Your Soul, sis.
Well, you can jump over to coloryoursoul.info and get on the list. I'm about to become more active. I promise I am on that list. Join us over on the Facebook page, where I share a lot of stuff. And I always tell people, follow me on Facebook, because I share a lot on there too. And so also the new network opens. We're doing the new community pops open on Mighty Networks tomorrow. So I'm excited about that too.
Awesome. Yeah. So they'll be able to go to coloryoursoul.info and be able to connect to all of these various places, right?
They will. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right, you guys, check it out. coloryoursoul.info. LaTara, thanks for sharing with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we encourage you to subscribe and spread the word. And don't forget, you can gain access to even more resources, plus a thriving community of fire starters by visiting our website at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com.